Okay, well, I'll start off with you, Mark. It sounds like you've turned things around like remarkably quickly from what you're saying. When you first went in, what kind of levels of resistance were you meeting? Because the impression I would get is that you get a little business like that tree business, and they go, well, we've been around for hundreds of years. What have we got to do? We've got more form filling, more red tape. It's going to cost us more money. We might have to employ different people. But it didn't seem to be that complex when they actually tried it. So what were the levels of resistance at the start?
I think the levels of resistance were depending on where you went. But we were very clear that we had a huge amount of procurement money, and for us, it's about the sustainability of the sector as a whole. If infrastructure keeps doing what it has been doing, there won't be enough people to build the projects. Talent is going elsewhere, finance, media, law. They're all oversubscribed for trainees, and we have thousands less than we need. So the nugget of wisdom is, it wasn't working anyway. So let's do something a little different. That takes leadership support. Once you're very clear with people about what they need to do, and you help them get there, and you help them realize it's not about throwing tons of money at it. You can do it smartly with things like David and Kevin mentioned, like the FIR toolkit and other things. There's lots out there. You just have to use it in a smart way. And I always tell people who are tendering with us, I don't care about your inputs. I don't care how many initiatives you run. I don't care how many events you put on. I care that you change. And by that, you change the mechanism of your decision making, or you change the way you do things. And that's what we focus on. So spending lots of money isn't necessary to make the change that we're after. And I have to admit, we're in the easy bit now, right? The big construction contracts start kind of next year and the year after. So it will get harder from here on a macro scale. But once our supply chain understood that, it wasn't difficult to get the engagement that we needed.
David, what are those mechanisms that you can use? So, if you're a small business, what do you physically have to do? Is it filling out forms? Is it just asking your staff questions you haven't asked them before, which looks like what happened with that tree business? They didn't even realize some of the people they had working there. How does it work in practical terms?
I think that's a great question. I don't work in a small supplier, so I don't pretend to kind of understand that entire world. I think within Highways England, where we have had people kind of go through that journey, there is a real point of personal understanding, whether it's through the example that I gave, or whether you do some unconscious bias assessment and you actually understand how you operate and maybe where your personal unconscious biases are. And I think that's an incredibly powerful moment, because it then opens you up to looking at all sorts of things within your business, whether it's your recruitment process, and I think it's a great point you made, Kevin, actually about computer literacy. Maybe there's a whole ocean of people out there that we're not even thinking about fishing in because they're around computer literacy. But that moment allows you to open your thinking to maybe not everybody sees the world from this perspective, and therefore maybe we're open. It can influence all sorts of different parts of a business, and that's certainly true in a big business. I think that's also true in a small business. The example there, these weren't bad people trying to do bad things. They just didn't see the world from that perspective, and HS2, in a very structured way, has opened up a new opportunity. And so I don't see it as form-filling. That just doesn't help. It's about changing perspectives and being committed.
Kevin, do you think you've got a tougher task? Because these are, I suppose, relatively kind of nascent businesses, and there's it's all new, and there's new money going in. There's Network Rail. I've had a lot of dealings with Network Rail over the years. That is not a company that's prone to change, easy to change. It's a very strong culture within it, isn't there? Lots of former bosses have come out of the railways and talked about the culture. Do you think it's harder for you guys?
It's undoubtedly harder, but that's an easy excuse to make. I'm fortunate because I've been in both camps. I worked at London 2012, which was very similar to HS2 in terms of a defined project that clearly had a tremendous backing in terms of making a change, making a difference. And everyone who came on board to that project bought into it. But now I work in an industry where you have to try and change mindsets, and it's also very helpful to have HS2 and Highways England working with the same suppliers, because I think there is there is some expectation amongst our certainly tier one suppliers that Network Rail will ask them questions. It will ask them to do things. If I could just come back to that SME point, clearly we don't engage with SMEs, not many anyway, directly. I think what's not helped in the past is that their clients, other clients, haven't asked them in the past, and I think that's why we are where we are, because other clients in other sectors haven't asked their suppliers to do things. So this is suddenly coming out of left field for them, for many of them.
Yeah, presumably, Mark, it's something you've only got to do once, and then once your structures are in place, you're away for a company.
Yeah, I mean, with the example there, with Crowders, there are free survey tools called Smart Survey, which have UK servers. So if you're an SME and you want to understand the diversity makeup of your staff, you can use a free tool to do that. Then you gather the data that you gather for us, and of course they want a big contract with us, but that data helps you establish a business case, and you then use that to go on and win further contracts. So then it becomes part of your business as usual. It becomes something that you know is helpful to you as a business. And one of the great things that I think they got out of it and we got out of it was an understanding that actually, yes, you can be smart about how you apply our requirements, and they don't need to cost a lot, but they do help you win business. And that is fundamental.